What is up, and welcome into the Monday Night Football Bet Show here, powered by FTNBets.com. My name's Jeff Ratcliffe, and we're here for Week 11, man. We've been doing this for seemingly the last 45 years. This feels like the longest season in NFL history, especially with all of these underdogs winning games, and just when we thought we figured out the answers to the questions here in the NFL season here, 2021, the NFL has decided to change all of the questions. We figured out the answers. They changed the questions, man. And of course, we do have tonight to talk about the New York Football Giants facing off against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You want to react to a little bit of what we saw yesterday as well. I'm going to give you 5 player props and my thoughts on the lines for this game this evening. Before I dive into all that, remember you can head on over to FTNBets.com and go check everything out if you want to try for free. We have a couple free tools. One of the best ones out there, the Prop Shop. You can search any player's name or any team, anything betting-wise related to sports, and we can get you odds from various sports books in your neck of the woods, whatever state you're in, and check it out for free. You want to take a peek at what Tom Brady's lines are? Go type in Tom Brady. You'll see all the lines out there: passing touchdowns, passing yards, completions, attempts, rushing yards. Oh, yeah, he's got a half rushing yard line. Get excited about that. But it's all available for you. You can then shop around, find the best lines, the best odds. All those little edges that you can find really do add up in the long term. That's the prop shop at FTNBets.com. If you want to get behind the paywall, though, use the promo code RATPACK. That'll get you a discount there. You can check out our bet tracker. You can check out all my NBA bets in addition to the NFL bets. It's a great thing. Plus a lot of great tools. Of course, if you're watching this because you follow me for fantasy football, you can head on over to FTNFantasy.com. Use that same promo code. Get access to rankings, projections, tools galore, and premium article content all right there. And if you play DFS, FTNDaily.com, you got to check out the optimizer. It is well worth the price of admission over there. Same discount promo code at all 3 sites. Reaction time. Ordinarily, when you score 4 touchdowns in a single football game, you will be the headline story. You will be the man. But Austin Eckler is pretty much an afterthought. The dude put up a 40-burger in PPR, but he is an afterthought because, of course, we had a guy who scored 5 touchdowns in a single NFL football game. This Al Bundy-like feat was accomplished, of course, by Jonathan Taylor yesterday against what was supposed to be a decent Bills run defense, but I think we kind of exposed that when you go up against a player like Jonathan Taylor, who is the cream of the crop, who is one of the top players, and now has solidified that. There's no secrets about it anymore at the position. Yeah. And this happens, I don't think we're going to keep them up there in that conversation any longer. They can shut down lesser running backs, sure, but they had a problem with Derrick Henry, as our guy Derek Brown pointed out on Sunday morning. He pointed that out in our DFS live show. They had a problem with Derrick Henry. They obviously had a problem with Jonathan Taylor, and that was a problem for you if you faced him in fantasy football. If you had him, you're sitting pretty, very likely. A 50-burger, one of the best fantasy performances we have seen in the last 2 decades out of any player across any position out there. We've seen, obviously, Christmas last year. Alvin Kamara, the 6-touchdown game. Saw a massive performance out of Jamal Charles going back almost, I guess it was about a decade ago, close to. Does not feel that long ago, but Jamal Charles, and then Doug Martin, another name going in the Wayback Machine. But I really think that if we're paying attention, we're not just reading the box scores, and we're actually looking at what these players are doing on the field. Coming out of the first couple weeks of the season, people were down on Jonathan Taylor. They were disappointed by Jonathan Taylor. But football and fantasy scoring and, hey, hitting overs and player props, it's all about opportunity. And Jonathan Taylor seeing more opportunities than anybody else in the most important area of the field for fantasy production, the red zone. Over at FTNFantasy.com, we have the red zone report. Heading into this week, not including this week, Jonathan Taylor had 51 red zone carries. Let's just put that into context. 51. That's 17 more than Derrick Henry had, and Derrick Henry obviously had been a beast in that area. Obviously hasn't played in a little while. The next most that we see in the league was 29. 51 for Jonathan Taylor. He had 19 goal line carries inside the 5. Hey, the math shows it, and this is not anything that's ever going to change. Your highest percentage chance to score a touchdown comes at the 1 yard line when you're a running back. If you get a carry at the 1 yard line, your success rate is much higher than if you got it at like the 45, right? Every yard you go back, your success rate decreases. But your highest success rate is in that goal line region. 19 opportunities. He now has had 22 opportunities. He converted 3 of them, obviously, yesterday. He has 8 touchdowns on those 22. He had an additional 13 red zone carries. This is unbelievable, and it does not come as a surprise at the same time, right? He's fantastic. I guess it's unbelievable how good he is, but the numbers coming together like this for Jonathan Taylor make a ton of sense given all of the opportunities he has had for fantasy purposes. If you have him right now, you have the breakout star, and that's good for fantasy purposes. Now let's dive into the betting, because by the way, betting-wise, I had the over at FTNBets.com on Jonathan Taylor rushing attempts, which, man, that was an easy over. I think it was 15.5, so giddy up there. But tonight's game, currently Tampa sitting 11-point favorites in this one. Getting that line from DraftKings. I have this line actually at 9 points projected out based on my projections. So I guess there is maybe some edge to betting the Giants, but I'm not going to do that one. I was joking before this, before we went live here with our producer Tino, who is a Giants fan, that just given the state of things this weekend, of course the Giants will probably win this game, but I'm not willing to put my money on that one. So it's a no play for me right there. Anytime you get these double-digit lines, usually projections will come in slightly lower, but I get why the line is where it is. Over-under-wise, there's no juice to squeeze. It's a 49.5 over-under. I have it projected at 49 points, so there's no juice there. Not going to worry about those, but I do think there's some opportunities here, player prop-wise, for us to dive into. Of course, 2 players who I will mention here who are likely to make their return. I don't want to say definite, but likely to make their return tonight. Saquon Barkley, Rob Gronkowski on either side of this matchup. Let's start with the Giants. I actually have 3 player props for the Giants. I'll give you 2 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Gronk will be one of those 2. But for Saquon Barkley, the early bird gets the best lines, I guess the best way to put it. If you were quick to the draw this morning when his rushing yards prop went up, you would have got it at 40.5. I saw that probably around 10:30 a.m. Eastern today at FanDuel. It was minus 110 on either side. That line immediately jumped to 42. I'm sure it got hammered. So that was the last that I've seen, 42.5, minus 110 on either side. I still think the line's probably about 8 yards too low, so there is plenty of edge here in the over. Is Saquon going to go out and have 100-plus rushing yards? I highly doubt it. But is this matchup completely unbeatable? Well, no, absolutely not. Tampa is one of the better run defenses in the NFL. There's no doubt about it. But last week they faced Antonio Gibson, who went out there and, he had a volume day. Let's call it that. He had a volume day, goes up over 20 carries, and went way over this line. Now, Saquon Barkley coming back from injury, is he going to have 20-plus carries? Highly unlikely. Is he going to average 5 yards a carry? Highly unlikely. Probably more like 3.8, 4.0. So you're telling me at that, do we think he can have 12 to 15 carries? Absolutely. And if he does that, even if it's not the most efficient day, he's going to hit this over. That's why I said I think if this line was 50.5, 49.5, somewhere in that range, it would be an absolute no play for me. But being that it's still 42.5, and I honestly think sometimes when the books put these lines out, they really don't know how to price these guys, and they don't spend a ton of time on it. That is one of the secrets out there. These books, it's not like you have a whole bunch of projections masterminds behind the scenes who are crunching numbers trying to put the best lines possible. They're not. They're putting out initial lines that in some instances are usually pretty good. In other instances, they may be too low or too high. And then they adjust the lines when the sharps come in. And these books know that players who are betting on player props are much sharper than players who are betting in other markets like, the spread and the over-under. So the lines are going to get adjusted, right? The lines are ultimately going to get adjusted. This is one of those instances where I just think they came in too low, and it presents us with an advantage if we are quick to the draw and we know when that line comes out. I wish there was an easy way to tell you when that line came out, like, hey, I got a push notification on my phone. No, I didn't. I honestly was just refresh, just in case a line pops up that I like, and it happened to be this Saquon line. So taking the over there, Kadarius Toney. So Sterling Shepard's still banged up, but Kadarius Toney and Kenny Gallaudet good to go. I think there's an opportunity on both of these guys. So Kadarius Toney, his line comes in as the lower of the two. It's 41.5, minus 110 on either side. This is at FanDuel. And I do like the over here. Why? I do think we're going to see a lot of essentially dink and dunk from Daniel Jones in this one. We know that when Toney and Shepard are on the field at the same time, Daniel Jones tends to look to Shep. When Shep is not out there, Kadarius Toney is the next guy. And Daniel Jones locks in on him, right? He has done it already this season. So I expect a relatively high volume but low ADOT day. You know, this is something I don't think he's going to do what Rondale Moore did yesterday. But Rondale Moore, like, this is kind of remarkable. He had -9 air yards. That's like a running back thing. I've never seen a wide receiver with -9 air yards on 11 targets. Like, it could be one of those, maybe not negative air yards, but could he have an ADOT of 4.5 yards? If you're watching this, you're like, what the heck is he talking about? ADOT. Average depth of target. How far downfield from the line of scrimmage does the target travel in the air, right? 4.5 yards per, like, it could be a very low ADOT but high volume night for him. So if he does see 7, 8, 9 targets, he catches 4, 5, 6 of them. This line is very, very, very doable here for the over for Kadarius Toney. And the nice thing is that, you know, historically I would have said, you know, I don't know, that secondary is very good for Tampa. I'm not saying that this year because of all the injuries that they suffered in that secondary. So let's go to Kenny Gallaudet. His line is actually 10 yards higher over at DraftKings right now, 51.5. I see it at 50.5 on the other sports books, which is telling for me. Minus 115 on either side. We didn't see the Giants last week. They were on bye. Last time we saw the Giants was back in week 9. And in week 9, Kenny Gallaudet was on the field after being banged up for several weeks, basically a month. And he was pretty ineffective. 2 for 28. The problem with being hurt in the preseason and then for a good chunk of the regular season on a new team is, how are you going to ultimately build up that chemistry with your quarterback? I don't know if it's quite there. Now, we did see, yes, it's not like they've all been bad performances out of Kenny Gallaudet, but I'm just not buying that, you know, he is the preferred target of the two. If these lines were flipped, then I think it would be less playable for me. I think I would just pass on both of them. But I do think we have an opportunity to sort of split the uprights here, go over on Toney, go under on Kenny Gallaudet. Maybe we hit both of those bets right there. Let's go to Tampa's side of things. Of course, coming in with no Antonio Brown, so you're going to have a lot of Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin is good to go. Mike Evans, will he be shadowed in this one? I don't think that necessarily has to happen for the Giants to have success, because we know last year they really leaned on James Bradbury, and he responded. James Bradbury had a career year last year, and he had to travel with opposing number ones, which is something he did when he was in Carolina. It's not like it was unprecedented for him in his career, but he responded so well. He doesn't have to do that this year. They have Adoree Jackson on the other side. You know, it's not like you're rolling out there with a rookie or some, you know, over the hill veteran who's just hanging on. Adoree Jackson's a really solid corner. He's allowing under 10 yards per catch. And the nice thing about James Bradbury this year too is that while he is giving up some volume, he is keeping everything in front of him. Opposing receivers only averaging 10.5 air yards per target this season, which that's not a Mike Evans number. You know, Mike Evans is a higher average depth of target guy. He's a high air yards guy. He's a guy who's going to be targeted heavily downfield. If James Bradbury can keep these things in front of him and not allow those high air yards targets, That's not good for Mike Evans, and he's going to see a share of both of these guys. I don't anticipate a shadow, although it wouldn't be utterly shocking. I just don't think that they necessarily need to here. So 65.5 receiving yards, minus 115 on either side. It's not a bad line. This is not a line where I'm like, oh, that's just mispriced. That's 10 yards too high, like I've been saying about some of these other lines. I think the line is appropriate, but I do think there's enough meat on the bone on the under on this one that I will take that under. I don't know how much we're going to see out of Mike Evans. Last week showed, and by the way, if you're watching this right now, you play fantasy football, don't panic. Last week showed he had 2 catches, but one of them was a decent length touchdown. So he was still solid enough fantasy play. So I'm not going to freak out there about Mike Evans fantasy-wise, but I will take the under there. Remember, with the under, too, it could be 65 for all I care. Doesn't matter how far under it is, as long as we get under for that. Let's talk about Rob Gronkowski. So Gronk should be back. He is not guaranteed to be back, but he should be back. What is Gronk's role? And a lot of times when we think about these players, if we haven't seen them for a while, our minds kind of lock in on the last time that we saw them, right? And the last time we really saw Gronk in a full-time role was early in the season when he was excellent. He was the red zone weapon to end all red zone weapons. He looked like, peak career, vintage Rob Gronkowski. But he isn't vintage Rob Gronkowski. He's Rob Gronkowski in his early 30s, which is getting up there for the position. He's Rob Gronkowski with an injury history that is extremely lengthy. He's also Rob Gronkowski, who was a key piece of this Super Bowl run last year for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and ideally for this next one, because we know the team has aspirations to get back there. The team was able to keep the band together and pretty much not lose anybody, which, hey, remarkable work there from Jason Licht and Bruce Arians to keep everybody in-house. Normally when you win a Super Bowl, the first thing to go is your priority free agents. They go elsewhere, they get their money, but that wasn't the case. You make a long push deep into January, if not February, you need all your key pieces there, and Gronk is one of those key pieces. So I do think he'll be active, but I don't think he's going to be heavily used in this game. You have a luxury, too, if you're Tampa. You have Cameron Brate, you have O.J. Howard. And, okay, we can make all the silly O.J. Howard jokes that we want to make, but there are a lot of teams in the NFL who would be falling over themselves for O.J. Howard right now at tight end. You have the luxury to not have to use Gronk heavily, so I don't know if you're going to use Gronk heavily. And when I see a receptions line of 3.5, now this is heavily juiced to the under. On DraftKings right now, it's minus 180. So when you have a line like this, if you are particularly confident in that line, which you're probably going to have to be, because remember, the worse the odds get for you, the more times you have to hit that bet over the long term to be profitable. But one thing that I will do on a wager like this, if I am particularly confident in that wager, I'm going to up my units. And I'm not going to play 5 units on it. Like, that'd just be silly. That'd be burning through my bankroll. But I could see going 1.5 units. I could, if you're really confident on this, you think you got a great read on this, I could see going 2. I'm not going to play 2. I'm going to play 1.5 units on this one. That way, the bang for the buck is there at least. Because if you're just betting a unit and you lose, especially there, I mean, what you're getting isn't really justifying it. So I'm going to play 1.5 units. I am confident on that one. And, well, let's hope I'm right. Let's hope he doesn't go out there and play 100% of snaps. I just can't see it happening, though, just based on the way that Bruce Arians has talked about this situation, how important Gronkowski is for this team in the playoffs. I mean, you need that weapon. He's still a mismatch. Like, yes, he's up there. It's not like he's 40 years old. He's up there in age for the position. He's got the injury history, but man, when he is healthy, he is still freaking awesome. He's still Hall of Fame, one of the best ever play the position caliber. It's not like he's lost a step, and he showed that earlier in the year. So I'm going to take that under. So here we go. Saquon Barkley over 42.5. I expect that line to still go up from here. Kadarius Toney over 41.5. Kenny Gallaudet, and that's receiving yards. Kenny Gallaudet under 51.5 receiving yards. Mike Evans under 65.5 receiving yards. Rob Gronkowski under 3.5 catches. So, yeah, 3 unders, 2 overs today. I'll be putting up some other stuff. I'll be putting up some NBA. We got a lot of NBA. Straight on through the week with the exception of Thursday. It's a heavy week here, especially tonight. So we'll get some NBA player props over there at ftnbets.com for you. I'm trying my darndest to break this 10-unit mark. I get up over it almost every night and then right back down. I did have both players ejected from I had LeBron. I had LeBron and Stewart yesterday. I had their player props that did not hit. I had the over on both of them. But somehow I should get something for having both of those guys since they were both ejected, right? I don't know. But anyway, they'll be up later on today. Of course, we'll watch some football. We'll keep rolling over at ftnfantasy.com. A full week. Hey, we don't quit just because it's a holiday week. No days off like Bill Belichick once said. We're going to keep rolling through the week like it's regular. So all the regular stuff get over there for this pivotal week. We're coming down the home stretch there for fantasy football purposes. Just 3 weeks remaining in the regular season, and we get 3 games on Thursday. So go check all of that out. And remember, FTNBets.com, FTNDaily.com, FTNFantasy.com, promo code RATPACK. Just one T. Just one T. That's all you need. At Jeff Ratcliffe on Twitter is me. Like I said, normal week. So on Friday, I will be back. And I will be here for JR Weekly. We'll review all of the games from this weekend upcoming, plus a player prop from every single game. We crushed some player props this past weekend. So we'll do it again this upcoming weekend. That's Friday at 2 o'clock right here where you're watching us. If you're on YouTube, smash the subscribe button, the like button, all of that, comment. And, keep it locked there. Also, Eric asking if I had any one-play paydays. So if you're just, I got to get to the comment. If you're just tuning into me now, you've never heard that before. One-play payday is where you only need one play to get an over. I would say Tom Brady, but I'd be nervous of the kneel. I almost feel like the kneel should be separated out from rushing yards. I really do. I almost feel like it's a separate category, but so it drives me nuts that is included in rushing yards because his line is a half rushing yard. And I do think, get this, he crushes that line with two rushing yards, 2 or 3 rushing yards in this game, which is technically speaking crushing that line. But I'd be really worried that we see a couple kneels at the end of the game and then take him back under. So I actually don't have any one-play paydays for this one. There may be, though, Eric. So check at ftnbets.com if there are any one-play paydays later as we're going to still get maybe a few more lines out there as we get closer to the game here in these next 6 hours, give or take. If there's anything out there, he's asking like a Kyle Rudolph player or something like that, I will put it up. I'm just not going to hold my breath on that one. Appreciate everybody watching, though. And remember, comment, like, subscribe on YouTube. I'll be back on Friday. Until then, enjoy your Thanksgiving. Enjoy the football. Win those bets. I'll catch you on Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern for JR Weekly. I'm Jeff Ratcliffe, and I'm out.